This is a Guide Your Light network production, creating podcasts with purpose.
My name is kianimills, and this podcast is created to help you see, feel, and experience the human side of business. I'm a business owner, an entrepreneur, and a parent. And like many who have traveled this path before me, I've been through the lows of the lows and the gut-wrenching pain. But I've been through the triumphs and the wins and the indescribable highs, all of which I consider to be my lessons in the school of life. On this show, we are going to start some conversations to ignite new world ideas into some very old age businesses. So if you're a leader, a business mind, or an entrepreneur, get ready to think, act, and feel differently so that we can all reach a new level of business success together. So, what are you waiting for? Welcome back to this week's episode of She Can Humanize Business. Last week's guest was absolutely outstanding. So the only way that I can top that is by having two at a time. So this week I have got Matt and Andy from Relentless Education. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us. Excited to be here.
Yeah, real honor. Pleasure.
Love it. Double trouble today. Bring it on.
Let's go.
And I'm personally excited to have these two here because they are helping me on my journey and I'm getting to work with them one-on-one, which has been a really cool insight to get to know you guys a little bit more, having had the outsider's perspective and watching from a distance and having really, really good friends who have worked closely with you guys. Obviously, they speak very highly of you, but I've been able to experience it, and hopefully the listeners today are going to be able to experience it also. So I would love to kick us off by asking the question that I ask everybody. And what does humanizing business mean to you? So who's first?
I love that question. I think it's really cool. To me, I'm curious to see hear what you'll say as well, Andy. I imagine we'll probably say exactly the same stuff, but to me, it's first of all, just doing the right thing by people. You know, I love what I heard Gary Vee say this. It's like, if you don't know people, you don't know business. There's so many examples of where people have put the bottom line before the person and blah, blah, blah. Or, you know, that old saying, you get treated like a number, not a person. And, you know, we all know what that's like. And I think that we're striving to do better in business as a culture, but a lot of people still are really, really bad at it. And so I think doing the right thing for me falls into the category of doing the right thing by someone, maybe when they need something more than what I can provide, or when the program's not right for them, or, you know, when their goal really truly matters and we need to go above and beyond, or when someone's not a match for us and we have to eject them from the community, which is, you know, unfortunate, but, you know, you got to do that to protect the community, protect everyone else. So I think like driving a business through values primarily, instead of just the bottom line, is very much humanizing it. I also think in our space as well, because we're working with online coaches and online service-based entrepreneurs, in most of our clients' business models and also in ours, there is a face of that business. And for example, like we're the face of our business, and most of our clients, you know, they have, you know, Kiani, you're the face of your business. And I think it's important to be authentic. And I think that word gets misunderstood, but essentially what it means to me is that you just mean what you say, you know, and I think that's, yeah. And it's so refreshing. You know, we're Andy and I just got off the phone before this. We probably can't announce it yet, but we've been able to hire someone that we really wanted to hire, someone that we're earmarking, and we're like, gee, we'd love to bring this person onto our team. And partly because they're very, very smart, but partly because they're just a real good person. We know them, they're loyal. I've known them for like 10 years. I've seen them be consistent. You know, it's another reason why Andy and I, we're in a business partnership that I think is rare, because we've known each other for over 10 years and we know each other's values. We've supported each other. We've been friends for a long period of time. We've seen each other win. We've seen each other lose. And we both mean what we say. And so because of that, you know, I trust everything that Andy says, and he trusts everything that I say. And it's just, when there's trust, trust, you can just get on and just do great stuff together. And I think that if you can cultivate that as a person, and then you can attract clients that also have that, then everyone does the right thing. Because I think the opposite is if you don't mean what you say, people work it out. They, after a while, they're just like, that person's lying, that person doesn't mean that. And then, it kind of comes back to you. Maybe you attract it a little bit. So that's a bit about, what it means for me, for sure.
Yeah, I love that. And I just quickly want to highlight the point that you said in there was about you going above and beyond, because
Right.
I know that I get responses to my text messages at 6:30 in the morning.
Right.
That is going above and beyond. And that from a very outset, one of the first things that you both said was that if you need us, we're here.
Right.
And it is that level of service that you offer, but it's doing what you said you would do.
Right.
And what you were highlighting, like as a human, we can say many things, but then it's being able to back up what we say we're going to do. And then in the circumstances that I've personally experienced, it is going above and beyond, especially when there is a crisis or there's something that needs to be dealt with. So, and again, this is why I love having people like you on the show, is because you live it, you breathe it, you're already doing these things. So to show the world that these people do exist, and they definitely exist in business. Everything you said was perfect. So
yeah, it's interesting, because I think it also just comes down to being a good person, being a good human. And I think in today's world that gets a little bit lost in regards to what that means. But it's not that hard just to do a good job with someone.
Actually easier than being a jerk.
Totally. Like, and Andy and I are blown away by the stories that we hear. People come to us and they're like, oh man, we like the amount of people in our program right now that have already spent like 30, 40 grand on something and got nothing in return. It breaks our hearts. It happens all the time. And people are like, oh, they lied to us. They didn't give us this. And we're just like, even if you think about it from the perspective of it's a bad business model, like, it's a good business model to do the right thing and over deliver, because, you get more clients and your clients are happy. And it's a weird thing that people do where they're just, I don't know, it's bad business anyway.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. Andy, what's your take on humanizing business?
Yeah, such a good question. I've never had this question before, so props for that. And it's really cool. I mean, when you look through the frame of humanizing business, it flows into every part of business, doesn't it? From values to culture, systems to scaling. The saying that I hear often, especially in scaling, and that's business is easy and people are hard. And I think if you're humanizing business, it really helps you have more empathy and understanding for people, but also yourself. Because if you're a business leader, you have to sort of humanize business and understand thyself more in order to operate at a higher level and work through the problems. And if you're scaling and you're managing multiple people and emotions and challenges, you have to be able to humanize the team, and then to be able to problem solve and help scale and get everybody to do what needs to be done, but also to live with purpose and passion. So look, I think that you could take that frame and you could break it down into every category of business and come up with really cool coaching frameworks and solutions for everything. You might have yourself
feels like a little coaching session.
I know, there you go. You got some cool IP there. But look, when you say it, I think of empathy. I think of problem solving. And I think that if more people humanize business, not to be ultra soft, but more in understanding, and then from a strategic and tactical level, utilizing that sort of frame, there would be less drama and faster scaling. So I think it's a really cool question.
Oh, amazing. Thank you. And there's a couple of things in there as well, especially as business owners. We're all business owners. We have lives, we have families, we have children. Business is life and life is business. So once upon a time, it was one or the other, or do one and then do the other. It was very hard to kind of mix them together. Whereas we've been in a bit of a unique situation the last couple of years where we haven't had a choice. And now we've created lives where I know Matt and I, we work from home and we've got kids around and we have all of those kinds of things going on, and it's just normal now. So we've had to bring the human into the business. There is no way to kind of keep them while we do our business work and our human work separate, but the separation has kind of disappeared a little bit.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a really cool opportunity. It's an amazing opportunity for everyone to be able to live their passion and live their dream and fuse it with life. And it's awesome that it's so more acceptable these days.
Yeah.
Something that Andy and I were talking about today as well before was just about balance, right? So like the myth of balance, we're just talking about how much of a bad idea it is. So what you've just spoken about there.
It's not real.
Right. I was talking to a client of mine about his relationship the other week because he was kind of like scoring between him and his partner, if that kind of makes sense. Like they were keeping tabs on each other. And I'm like, brother, it can't be 50-50. There's no balance. I'm like, sometimes you'll work harder, sometimes she'll work harder. Sometimes you'll be sick, sometimes she'll be sick. Sometimes you'll be more worried, sometimes she'll be more worried. Like nothing's 50-50. It's weird, Andy. I feel like I'm just like really like gushing over you in this interview, just talking about how much I love you. But one of the things that I love about Andy and I's relationship is like we don't keep tabs on each other. Do you know what I mean? So no one's like, how many emails did you answer? Do you know what I mean? Like, who gives a shit? We're not tracking things to make sure it's 50-50. In life and in business, it can't be like that either. So there's no balance between work, family time. I think a good way to think about it is like there's prioritizing things based on values, like a hierarchy of values, and making sure that you allocate the appropriate amount of time for things to be able to like actually just achieve the benchmarks that exist within those things. So for example, I make sure I spend enough time with my kids and with my wife and on my health, but nothing's balanced. You know, not that it would be insane to think anything could be 50-50, but you can get a lot done by integrating it all, like you said. And I think the more that you are able to integrate it, the less you want to move away from it. Like I think that the part of the idea of balance comes from an idea of it's like that middle class Australian view of hating your work and then trying to balance your work with and the same amount of enjoyment in your life, which makes sense. But in this new paradigm of enjoying what you do and loving your work, then, you know, like I remember, you know, when you were saying, you know, you texted me at 6:30 a.m. one morning and you're asking me some questions and I'm like half feeding my son, like texting you and, you know, and then like, you know, just kind of doing it. It's just, you know, it's just life.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a juggle. It is a juggle. Everything is juggle. And the coolest statement that I got told, which kind of like went cool, is that life is not linear. So when you've got 50 and 50, that makes it linear. That's not life. Life is not linear. So get ready for the peaks and troughs and try your best to, you know, deal with the challenges along the way. But life is a bit of a journey. And speaking of journeys, I would love to go through yours, but we're going to do it backwards. So we're going to start with the now and end with the before, because I'm going to follow my theme of asking what you thought about humanizing business and speak to you about your company, Relentless Education, because I find it really cool. And one of the concepts when I was, you know, diving into my mentoring business was, oh, what do I call it? What's the name? And how does it all work? And all those kinds of things, which is the fun part. But I know for the two of you, Relentless Education has a meaning and is important. And I've seen it play out firsthand. So I would love to hand it over to you to dive into the meaning of Relentless Education and what that means to you and your, are they clients or customers, whichever you call them.
Yeah, man. Well, I think it's really about the way me and Matt approach life and business. Everything we do, we attack it relentlessly, and it just rings true in whether we're focusing on training, the way we dedicate ourselves to family, the way we dedicate ourselves to business, to overcoming problems. The name just resonates on every single level because we just refuse to give up on anything that we do. If our heart's in it, if it's purposeful, if it has a greater meaning, if it's going to impact the world and the people that we love, then we just don't stop, and we won't stop. And that's how we serve our clients. That's how we serve each other. And that's how we serve this business. So for us, it was a no-brainer. Relentless Education just like hit our hearts immediately. And with our podcast, we love to interview relentless people and people that come into our business. One of the prerequisites is, are they also relentless? Are they relentless enough to be in this tribe and fight as hard as we're going to fight? Because, you know, to create a business is not easy by any stretch. And you have to have that dog in you. You've got to have that relentless grit, resilience, determination to charge through those problems, to charge through the uncertainty, the doubt, the fear, and everything in between. So that's why that sort of lands on our heart so much. And that's why we coined the term Relentless Education.
I love it so much. And instantly when I heard it, I thought of Will Smith and one of his powerful speeches that he did where he spoke about relentlessly building the foundations of a house. He used reference the house. But then it took me down the path of one of his movies, which is The Pursuit of Happiness and the relentless pursuit of happiness. And through education, that is how you are empowering others to do that. I mean, that's freaking cool. I love that.
Yeah, very much so. I think one of the things that is not a popular message, especially in the life coaching space, which we're very much in, and also online entrepreneurs, is that it's okay for things to be hard. Like a lot of good things are hard. Doesn't mean you can't enjoy them, but the best metaphor is exercise. Like you know, we all exercise. Like I was doing some training today. It was enjoyable, but it was really, really, really hard. And there was a guy that I've become friends with in the gym named Carlos, and he kind of like egged me on to do a little bit of a harder workout with him. And I was just like hating it because it was way harder than I'd like signed up for, if that makes sense. He's like, go on, do more. And then he was like watching me until I did more. And, you know, I don't like that. kind of that friendly egging each other on to do more. Like I enjoyed it, but it also sucked and it was really, really painful. But the benefits that has for my health and for my mindset are uncomparable to other things. You can't take that out of your life and still have the same results. For Andy and I to fight in our business, to push through failure and push through mistakes and push through things not working. And, that's just this stuff well, Kian, it's just like, welcome to business. That's just what it's like. People just look at the picture of you looking healthy, with the family or, in front of the nice car that you've got or something. And they think, gee, I'd like that. But most people aren't willing to face that it's quite hard to get there in any measure. It's even like I was talking to Andy yesterday about parenting. It's definitely the hardest thing I've ever done. Shout out to Brandon, because he'll probably listen to this, who's a friend of all of us. But Brandon said to me the other day, he said, yeah, business is one of the hardest things I've done. I've said, brother, wait until you have kids. It is way harder. Like the dynamic is crazy, but kids are the most like fulfilling thing that I've ever experienced in my life. Like, being a dad's the best thing I've ever done.
And
it's the hardest thing I've ever done.
They are.
Yeah, I love it. I wouldn't change any of it. It's hard, but it's good. And I think that for us to be relentless means that we face that stuff head on. We don't complain. We would never complain. Like, we just don't even know what that's like. Do you know what I mean? It's just not in us at all. We just find a way, just lean in and just accept the cards that have been dealt to you and find a way. And yeah, we just know that that's the only way to succeed. Doesn't mean that you can't feel your feelings, I think that's probably the big misunderstanding for having a mindset like this, is it just means you're an a-hole or something like that. But, like Andy said, you can be relentless towards your personal growth. You can be relentless towards your own development. And so it's about being all in on everything.
Yeah, and I love that, because that's the message that goes through the group, even through the training platform and on the group calls, and that you are in some way creating or molding this community to not only be relentless in their business, but think, and that's the resilience piece that comes in, which we all need a little bit more resilience in our lives. And if we can teach that in business, that you don't have to be an asshole to be really, really successful in business, that you can relentlessly pursue your goals and your ambitions and still do it from a really beautiful, conscious place. That's a beautiful, beautiful message that should be spread across every single business on the face of the planet.
Yeah, it's a pretty powerful point you just said, because I think most people do have a negative relationship with it. It's like, assholes are relentless, so let's be soft and fluffy and tolerant of absolutely everything, which doesn't work, doesn't help people grow. So you can't be tolerant of, giving up, for example, when you could just push through and you could win. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And Andy, you had a really cool experience, I think last week, when you went back to your high school to go and speak in Ballarat. Yeah. How was that? Because that would have brought up a heap of stuff.
Oh, for sure. It was a trip. It was a cool experience. So I didn't even finish high school. So I was shocked, firstly, to get a call back and be like, hey, you want to come speak at the school? I'm like, what? I got suspended. I left school early. What do you want me to talk about?
Do I tell them the truth, or do I lie?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. But look, it was so cool going back there. So much was exactly the same. A few changes, but a lot was the same. A lot of good memories from high school. And a lot of the foundation of my character was built there as well, which, you got to give credit to the teachers and the friends and students from the high school. And my health journey started there when I joined the rowing team. So it was cool to talk about that. But it was just really, really, really powerful to go back and give back a little bit to the kids. So we had 1,500 students, got a chance to speak to the Year 12 specialist sports unit first. Had lots of great questions there about business and about just being relentless. That was a huge theme of it. And also just my pro sports career as well. So that was awesome for them. And then we got to speak to 1,500 students and just talk to them about some foundational lessons that I'd learned, started learning at school that carried through to business, and saw a few inspired eyes. And it was great having a few of them come up to me and tell me about, they want to start businesses, they want to do this and make this money. And I was like, yes, that's what it's about. If you can spark just a little spark for someone that age, year 11, 10, 11, 12, they can go out there and make money right now if they wanted to and truly make an impact. So it was a beautiful experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you take a moment to kind of stand there and be like, look how far I've come?
Yeah, I need to do that more. That's one of my weaknesses, is that I don't normally do that. And so I was running around filming content and doing stuff, so I wasn't really thinking about it, to be honest.
The content's fantastic.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I'm gonna challenge you to today at some point to sit down, have a look at that content, and just try and remember what it felt like, because that's a massive, massive moment.
True, yeah. And look, I put they gave me a beautiful little Ballarat High School mug as a little souvenir, and I put that on my bookshelf. And I was looking at that last night thinking, wow, so much has happened between leaving Ballarat all those years ago to now. And so it was a good feeling. I was really grateful for it.
It really is an awesome thing. Like I can just imagine, I remember when I was in school, if I had the opportunity to have someone that, I thought all my teachers were kind of douchebags. So there was no one that I ever met that was like, oh, I want to be like that person. I didn't really come in contact, for me personally, in school. I know a lot of people do, but if for me to have met you or someone like you and be like, you can be an entrepreneur. What even is that? Wow, I can, this guy's crushing it. He loves what he does. It is pretty awesome. There's some people that will remember that and will most likely make some better decisions after seeing that. Kids are so malleable at that time, so it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, well, I hope so. That's the end result that we want. So a few of them started following me on social, so hopefully they get that inspo continued, and it was great. I'd love to go back again and help in any way that I can, but it was a really cool experience, and I'd love to do it again for sure.
That's awesome. That's so good. And speaking of going back, thank you, Facebook. I've done a little bit of stalking of both of you. So we're going to go back for a little minute.
Oh, no.
I'm going to show you both a photo, and I would love to hear if you had one piece of advice to tell that you, Andy, yours is 13 years ago. What would you tell them? Also, maybe let's start with what you were thinking and what was going through your brain at that point in time, at that age, at that stage of your life, and then lead into what advice would you give them now?
Hey, you beast, Andy.
There he is.
Look bright red there, don't I? No, I remember that day.
Well, it was either that or a partying photo. So it was either that one or a partying photo.
Yeah, I know. Thank God. I thought you were going to put a party photo up from that long with my bleached blonde hair. That was a cool stage of my life. That was when I was really starting to take myself more seriously, and I'd stopped partying and I'd started really focusing on being the best coach that I could be in the fitness space. And I started dreaming about opening my own gyms. And that was probably a year before I raised capital for my first gym. So that was a really cool time. I was maturing. I was reading like relentlessly. I was just trying to devour so much information and grow and train hard. And that was actually at a Charles Poliquin seminar. Charles Poliquin was a great mentor of mine initially as well, absolute legend who's passed away. So yeah, I mean, if I could give myself any advice at that age, would just be to always lead from like mission first and ego last. Like always lead, like leave the ego at the door. I think in business, I remember, for an example, when I opened my first gym, I mean, I don't think it's fully unresourceful ego, but I was like, I need branded equipment, my logo on everything, it cost me an extra 70, 80K or whatever, which I didn't have at the time. But it was those little 1%ers where I was making decisions based on ego rather than economics or the financials or getting the job done, which can set you back. And then that accumulates. You do 10 of those decisions and all of a sudden you're not where you could have been, or even worse, you could fail. So, luckily I got through those moments, even though I put my ego first in some circumstances. But I think if I could turn back the clock a little bit, I would say be humble always. Park the ego, mission first always, and just be smart, kid. Be smart.
Yeah, I love that so much. And then just quickly, what was it that made the shift from bleach blonde hair and partying to reading books and working out?
I think I was sick of my situation and my circumstances. I had a vision of who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do, and my reality wasn't matching that. And I kept starting to verbalize, I want to be a businessman. I want to be taken seriously. I want respect. I want to make money. I want to make impact. And that wasn't showing up with me getting blind and partying and, pretending I was a rock star and all these other things. And then it got to a point where I was just like, look, bro, you can either keep talking shit and be one of those guys that says they're going to do shit all the time and does absolutely fuck all, or you can start taking things a bit more seriously and do the work straight up. And that's when I started. The first step to that was just learning. And that was me reading and doing every course that I could. And I just parked. I basically went dark on all my friends and all my vices and anything that was distracting me. And I just went into the cocoon of learning and applying bit by bit. And everyone I've had feedback on this many times, but everyone could see the decision being made in time. It was like, fuck, what's happened to Andy? It's just like, when I make a decision like that, it's done.
Relentless.
So that's relentless. Yeah. So that was the thing. I just wasn't happy with where I was at. My reality wasn't matching my vision. I thought, I'm not going to be that guy that will, wakes up at 60, 70, 80 years old saying, I wanted to open a gym one day, or I wanted to be a millionaire, and had done absolutely fucking nothing. And so that just didn't suit me. So I decided I'm doing the opposite. I'm going to get to work.
Well done. And I guess even that in itself is an empowering story for those kids who, yes, they're still at high school now, but they're about to leave and go down that path. And we all like to have a little party after high school. It's kind of like, it's like the way that things are done. So that's a really beautiful piece of advice to take yourself seriously. If you want to get the shit done, you got to do the hard work. Well done. That's you. Yours was fun because I know a bit about.
Nervous about.
No, don't be. I'm
excited for this one. Let's go.
I've deleted most of my bad ones. I've hidden them.
It's not a bad one at all. And we came from a very similar industry, so we've had this conversation. We've definitely crossed paths in nightclubs and similar. Anyway, so for you, it's more so of a point, and I know that music is in your blood. So then the partying scene for you was a little bit different to probably what Andy's and I's was, and you were there to work as well. So for you, it's that working in the music industry does have a level of dedication to it because you are surrounded by so many potential vices and opportunities to do the wrong thing or not show up or whatever it might be. So tell me, and you look really happy in this photo. Tell me, what was it like
good photo
being this Matt, and living your passion as well as balancing life?
So that was a Thursday night nightclub that I used to DJ at in Melbourne called 3D. I don't know if it'd be funny if someone listening to this knows the Melbourne nightclub scene well enough to remember it.
This was 2011 too, for anyone that's wanting to know.
It's quite an iconic, hard trance Thursday night. It was heaps of fun. Back then, I was a real happy guy, got wasted a lot, just like in the DJ scene. And it was interesting when I was 16, because I failed school hard as well, very similar to Andy. I didn't apply myself at all. But I think it was when I was 16, I did one of those tests where they're like, what do you want to do when you're an adult, when you leave school? And I said I wanted to be a DJ, and they were like, well, you can't do that. And so I left and became a DJ. I was like, we'll see you later.
Like you.
So, yeah, exactly. So I just I couldn't afford much. So I bought myself real bad equipment, and I taught myself how to DJ, and then I slowly earned more money through washing dishes. I got paid $10 an hour, and I earned more money, and then I bought better equipment, and that was a couple of year process to get to the point where I had good equipment, but I had enough money to afford, back then we played vinyl. I had enough money to afford one record at a time. One record a week is what I could buy, which was $20. So I had enough music to play 1 hour, and then each week I'd add another 4 minutes into that. And so it was really, really challenging because essentially I'd play the same set in a different order a lot because I didn't have any more money to afford more records.
I guess at least you knew the music.
Yeah, and it was a fun time, and I don't regret it. I had a really good time, and I made lots of great friends. I think if I was to give myself some advice though, if I was to kind of help myself more, I never really took my future seriously. So I was kind of different to Andy, where you had a vision. I never had a vision. I love my family. Everyone's pretty kind of middle class. I never had anyone who was aspirational around me. Never saw anyone love what they do. Definitely never saw anyone make any money. I had that real old school belief where everyone that made money must have been a real douchebag. I really believed that, and I thought that so it's better to kind of stay on struggle street essentially. I never had a vision, and I never took my future seriously, and it took me a really long time to do that. I think because of that I made a lot of mistakes, and I didn't work hard enough. I still was self-made, I still did good stuff, but I never achieved anything great in that space, if that kind of makes sense. Everything was mediocre, and I just had a belief that it was well, nothing matters anyway, and if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. It was pretty unresourceful because I to be completely honest, I don't think I ever really knew that I had any true capability in me. I think it all came from a lack of self-esteem. So if I could go back, I think I would just be like, now I've got a son, it'd break my heart if my son felt like how I felt. I think I would say that you have heaps of potential, and if you take your life seriously, that you can have a great life. If I wish I could have learnt that earlier, and it's kind of part of why I care a lot about helping other people build businesses, because it's like, if you have a business, I was talking to a friend about this the other day. We're talking about the economy, and I said, I'm really blessed that I'm not affected by the changes in the economy because I run my own company and we always make sure that we succeed no matter what. And I know that's not the case for a lot of people. A lot of people are super affected by it, and those changes hit them hard. So for us to be able to help people get out of that and have more financial control and have what they want, I think it's a great thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's inspiring as well, because there's so many people out there that live the life that they were born into,
Right.
and they don't know any different. They learn from their parents and their grandparents and their aunties and their uncles. And, I grew up in Frankston, and that was normal. To have Chinese takeaway once a week was exciting. To go into a caravan park 2 hours away was exciting.
For us,
Those
it was
kind of things were just
30-cent
cool.
cones. Do you remember them? 30-cent McDonald's cones. That was our
Totally not 30
once a
cents
week on a
anymore.
Sunday. That was like Christmas.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's those little things, right? But for a lot of people, they don't know any different. And when you aren't raised in a family that has aspirations, or, you see people on the TV and you go, that could never be me.
Right.
It's such an easy thing to just fall into the life that you were born into, and just keep, marry the high school sweetheart, get a steady job close to home, buy a house near the family, all those kinds of little things, which is absolutely fine if that's your prerogative. But for a lot of us, we actually don't know there's any other option. Good on you for making the change. And what was it for you that changed the mentality from going, this is just the way it's going to be, to Relentless?
Similar to Andy, I started getting fed up. And it's one of the things that we talk about a lot in our program is like, I think you do have to get fed up with something if you want to change it. Tony Robbins says that we do more to avoid pain than we do to move towards pleasure. I really believe that. So yeah, I just got sick of it. I was working a job selling Foxtel in a supermarket, smoking crack pipes on a Thursday at lunchtime, drinking beers at work. Like, I don't know how I didn't get fired, because I couldn't, like, if I had one drink of alcohol right now, I would not be able to do this podcast. Like, I cannot hide anything anymore. But yeah, I think at one point I was like, I had a moment where I thought to myself, is this it? Is this my future? Am I gonna, for me, when I was younger, there was a part where I was like, I'm young, who cares? I'm do whatever I want, whatever. I'll not sleep and then go to work. I guess I just had that young rebellious view. But after a while, I think it was early 20s, I just started to think, oh, okay, who I was friends with, there was the older brothers of the people I was friends with. So I was friends with people that everyone smoked weed and everyone took party drugs. And then there were the older brothers of some of our friends, and they had not changed. So I knew some people that were heroin addicts, and I knew some people that were like, we would maybe have some speed and they would inject the speed. Wow. So it was like another level up from us. Mm-hmm. Right. And like, we were trying to find money for partying, and they would go steal a TV. And so there was that next level up from me. And then there was like people going to like, starting to go to like the bikie clubs and stuff like that. And so I think I saw that was a potential option. I'm like, okay, I'm not doing those things, but I guess if I'm here long enough, I'm probably going to do that. And then for me,
like seeing your future in front of you.
Pretty much. And this is where I do credit my mom, a single mom. She did the best to raise me with Christian values. And so I think that I've always had something in me that has just, now I'm a Christian myself, so I believe it's God. I think that it's always been like that little measurement of just like, don't go too far. Do you know what I mean? Like, I made a lot of mistakes, but there was always something that's just like that line. If you cross that line, you're not coming back from that line. And so I think I do credit my mum for that, because I've had enough wisdom in me to not be extreme. Like, I've done dumb shit, but not extremely dumb that I couldn't come back from it. And then, yeah, I just, in a very similar way, I started looking for people that had what I didn't have. And I still do that now. And it was initially books, and then it was mentors. And, Andy and I met through working with the same mentor. And now it's been really an understanding of always having a mentor, always having someone to learn from, always looking for that next level, and being humble enough to realize that you need like lots of help in your life.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to make. Even the best coach, Tony Robbins has been mentioned a few times, and he's an absolute idol of mine. He has coaches and mentors.
Yeah.
Every coach needs a coach. Every mentor, every psychologist needs a psychologist. Like, we can't do this. We weren't born to do this alone at all. I have you guys, the best.
Thank you.
So true. Yeah, and a lot of people forget that, don't they? A lot of people don't. Maybe they forget it, or they don't want to humble themselves enough to reach out and have those conversations. But it's the biggest life hack you will ever take on. As soon as you start humbly learning from others as much as you can, whether you pay them or you just speak to them, like, it doesn't matter. If you have a mindset around always learning and always being willing to listen and then take on knowledge and apply it, boom, your life will change rapidly.
Absolutely. In the world that we live in, you can get it all at the touch of your fingertips. YouTube. Everything's on YouTube now. Was there anything else? I mean, we've done 45 minutes and I could talk to you guys for hours and hours and hours, but so speaking to the audience, so we're talking to business owners, employees, leaders, mums, parents, brothers, sisters. It's pretty much a broad range. We've got some people from overseas. Thank you for listening, guys. From your relentless viewpoint, what is a piece of advice that you would give someone else to consider or be curious about, to want to take a step in the right direction, to change their life, to become relentless, to stop the previous patterns, or go, this isn't my story? What would it be?
Yeah, look, my quick piece of advice is that stop expecting everything to be easy and for it to just happen. But part of the relentless philosophy is keep going, fail forward, failed fast, fuck up, cut your knee, scrape your knee, put a Band-Aid on, get back up, keep going, fall down again, go again. That is the cycle. That is the pathway to success. Unfortunately, for some reason, people think that as soon as they hit a barrier, or their business fails, or they fail, or they get fired, or some sort of adversity pops up, rather than trying to see the opportunity within the adversity, they just see shame, failure, I'm not good enough, shut down, do nothing, hide. And then their light dims and turns off. And I think everybody at some stage has like this light inside of them where they just let themselves dream a bit more. They get excited by some vision, some thing in their mind that like stirs them enough to like have a crack at something. But the problem is that as soon as they have a crack, if they get shut down, or they didn't have a good boss, or they get laughed at, some people unfortunately just immediately shut that light off and hide and really settle. And they choose average and mediocre rather than facing all of the challenges that really success is meant to bring. And so I think the biggest lesson and the foundational piece for anyone that wants to be great at anything is you got to have a crack, but having a crack means every fucking day. Having a crack means you wake up and you will fail, and know that and appreciate that. But rather than seeing failure or barriers or adversity as negatives, you have to see them as badges of honor. You've got to see them as gifts and as lessons, and I truly see them as armor. So every time something, everything I view through the warrior mentality, it just keeps me amped up, keeps me excited. And so when I think about failing or falling over or facing problems, I love to think about all the other great people that have had the privilege of facing those problems, and they keep going. And when you look at pressure as privilege, or challenges as privilege, it completely changes your world. And every time you face that challenge or problem and you win, or you get back up, like getting back up is a win. You put that bit of armor on and you're stronger from that, and you have more experience, and you've got more grit, you've got more tenacity. So just if you have a vision, or you have a spark, or maybe you've been knocked down and you've been hiding for a little while, I just challenge you to listen to this and think about a vision that stirs you, get back up, have a crack. And next time you get knocked down or have a failure, say thank you, move on, wear it as a badge of honor, and keep pushing forward, because it's those individuals that make an impact in this world.
Oh, that just literally got me in all the feels, and I'm like, bro, I'm ready to go. Yes.
Solid.
I love it too, because you're right. It's not failing. You just didn't do it right. Try again.
Exactly.
It's impossible to fail. You only fail when you give up.
That's it. That's what people need to remember. You only fail when you give up. So don't give up. You can never fail.
Just try again. Try again. What about you, Matt?
I think it's also enjoying that whole process and understanding that that's what life is. So I think a lot of people are addicted to comfort, and now probably more than ever. You know, when you give people lots and lots and lots of comfort, if you think about it, for most of the world, obviously there's still some places in the world that are extremely hard done by and dangerous, and people are escaping those places, doing the best to survive there. For most of us, we've all been very like westernized, and there's a lot of safety and there's a lot of opportunity. I think I think it's 6 billion people have the internet, which opens you up to education and the opportunity to be an entrepreneur. And most people are just too soft. Most people are just too weak. And even that statement's offensive. And I understand it. It'll trigger some people and they go, I'm not weak. Weakness is just a choice. I don't mean like physical strength, although I think physical strength is a bit of a metaphor for emotional strength, because if you can face things physically, you can face them mentally and emotionally. Life is a struggle. And it's really hard, but in that is joy and love and peace and grace and just all this awesome stuff. And if you don't sign up for the fight, then you're just going to be depressed. And I think that's where, you know, we see young people now have way more depression than ever has been recorded ever. And, you know, part of it, I think, is because they're probably spending too much time on their phones and too much time on social media and comparing themselves about shit that just doesn't really matter. Like, how many likes you got and, you know, whatever. But what they should be doing is like getting a job and like working in a job you don't like for a period of time and sucking that up.
That'll make
you know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, it's this weird thing now where young kids don't put up with that. They go, no, I'm going to leave.
Or I'm going to ask for more money.
Yeah, it's not the way it works. You have to earn it. And, you know, I stunk like crap for 3 years whilst I washed dishes and I couldn't get that smell off my body. Do you know what I mean? For anyone who's worked in the kitchen, like, and you wash dishes, you stink. And I did that for 3 years and I got paid $10 an hour and I just enjoyed it. Enjoy what's hard. And that's life. Like right now, I'm definitely the happiest I've been. And I'm like the tiredest I've been because I've got 2 young kids and I've got some fatigue problems, and there's always going to be something that you have to fight against. There's always going to be something. You're never just going to have, like, I think like the myth of retirement gets people, or even like if more in lower socioeconomic areas, the myth of the lottery, you know, like you got to let go of that. It's like, oh, if we won the lottery, I'd
be happy with a meat tray.
Yeah, I'd love a meat tray, 100%. I'd up for that. Now you got me thinking about salami and cheese. But, you know, people
my kind of meat tray has chops and steaks in it.
Oh, I'm in. I'm so in. Yes, I think people have this myth. It's easy for someone. It's not easy for anyone. You know,
how lucky are they?
Yeah, it's just not like that. They've got their different struggles. Everyone's struggling somehow. Yeah. But if you sign up for that struggle and you just realize that part of it is it's a part of life. Actually, this is a good one. So I got this from one of my mentors maybe 10 years ago. She said that you should always be trying to swap the problems that you've got for higher quality problems, but you never don't have a problem. And I've really lived that for a long period of time now. So it's like, for example, I no longer have a problem of like a drug addiction, or I no longer have a problem of where do I find money to pay rent? You know, I don't have those problems anymore. But now we have a problem of like, how do we take care of all of our members whilst onboarding this new person and whilst running this event here? And how do we fit it all in? And what happens when this goes wrong? And the stress never goes away, but it's kind of like better stress, if that kind of makes sense. Like I'd rather have high quality problems than to be stuck with the shitty low ones that I used to have.
100%. And I love what you said earlier around the emotional and the physical link, because even though when we are physically strong, we have that ability to train our minds in a different way, but even that emotional strength comes, it's like a muscle. Going to the gym every day will strengthen our muscle every day. Practicing our emotional strength every day, you've got to do it. It's not just something you can switch on. It's a practice, like everything. And for those problems, especially for someone who's jumping from a low level problem to a big level problem, there's steps in between that. And it's a constant practice to get to the point. So building our emotional strength is, in my opinion, exactly the same as building our physical strength. We've got to be on it. We've got to be relentless in wanting to achieve that. because otherwise we're going to stay exactly the way we were, or worse. Thank you guys so much for being with me today. I know that there's so many more things that we could talk about, and I'm sure we are going to do it again. Hopefully the next one can be in person. We'll get all three of us in the same room. That'd be fun.
We should definitely do that. 100%.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, both of you, for being here. Double whammy. And just quickly, one of you, how do people get in contact with you? And actually give us a little recap on Relentless Education, the offering that you guys have for people.
Yeah, so relentlesseducation.com.au would be the place to go. And so we work with coaches, online coaches. So we work with people like life coaches, relationship coaches, health coaches, but we also work with service-based entrepreneurs like music teachers or online accountants, and really just anyone who provides a service online. We help them to start, grow, and scale their business. So we work with a lot of people between that range of I'm just beginning to I'm working out how to make my first $10,000 a month. But we also work with people that have got an established business and want to grow to, say, $1 million a year or just a bit beyond in revenue, which most people are pretty damn happy with for a solo entrepreneur. And we very much, we love it. We're very passionate about it. And we want to work with people that dig our message. We have a kind of a rule where we only work with people that are that hear this and go, yes, that's my thing. And we're okay if someone's not for us, but if you are for us, head to our website, relentlesseducation.com.au. You'll see there's lots of options there for you to opt in for something and reach out to us and check us out.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I would love to hear your feedback around what resonated and what key lessons and learnings that you took out of today's episode. You can find me on Instagram and on LinkedIn under the She Can Humanize Business podcast or kianimills. I really hope that you were able to see, feel, and experience a new way of humanizing business.